Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second webinar in the Specright Unpacked series, breaking down sustainability spec by spec. We will talk about the importance of sustainability, the urgency of sustainable solutions, and how to tackle sustainability reporting. Allow me to introduce myself or reintroduce myself for those of you who attended the first webinar. My name is Grace Sneed. I am a sales development representative here at Specright. I spend my days reaching out to companies in an effort to educate them on the value of specification data management. Prior to working at Specright, I worked as a packaging engineer for two CPG companies, giving me a unique perspective on the importance of data management. Alongside me today is Corey Connors. Corey has been in the sustainable packaging industry for nearly 2.5 decades. His career started working in a Weyerhaeuser corrugated production facility, learning how corrugated is made and how it can be utilized as a more efficient and sustainable material. Since then, Corey has channeled his passion of sustainable packaging into many different outlets. Corey is a sustainable packaging consultant, member of the International Packaging Press Organization, director of sustainable packaging at Aurora Packaging Solutions, and is the host of his very own podcast, Sustainable Packaging. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Grace.
I'm also joined by Katie Exum. Katie is a product manager at Specright. She has a background in packaging engineering with experience in the food and beverage industry and has also held a position in consumer electronics at Amazon. Katie pivoted to working in data management at Specright, where she added experience in customer onboarding, then strategic partnerships before transitioning into her product manager role. A 2020 PMMI On the Rise award winner, Katie stays involved in the packaging space through her work with PackSight, a packaging testing tool co-created by ISTA and Specright. Across all her roles, Katie's passion for sustainability has been incorporated into her work. Thank you both so much for being here.
Excited to be here. Thanks, Grace.
The first chunk of today's webinar will be spent picking Corey and Katie's brain about the importance of sustainable packaging and the urgency behind it. Katie will then go into a demo showcasing Specright's sustainability capabilities, as well as share her insights on Specright's impact on sustainability. And then to wrap our session up, we will have a live Q&A, so please jot down your questions or feel free to submit them in the chat as we go. Without further ado, let's get right into it. This first question is for Mr. Corey Connors. So Corey, what inspired you to become involved in sustainable packaging advocacy or influencer activities?
Yeah, thank you so much, Grace. Again, thank you, Specright, for having me on. It's an honor to partner with you. And I truly support what you do and your mission to make data the key to how we report our sustainability efforts and get accurate information to our customers and moving forward with that. It's an exciting time in packaging, but my history is growing up in the Northwest and spending a lot of time in the woods and at rivers and streams and lakes with my family and friends. Sustainability was right in our face, and because we wanted to keep those environments green and beautiful, it always bothered us when we saw waste in the environment, and so we oftentimes would spend time picking that up and focused on recycling and things like that in our home and buying products that were more environmentally friendly. And then as a father, having kids, looking them in the eye and seeing their future ahead of them, we need to really has guided me and made me motivated to be more sustainable even now, to make the world better for them. And so it's easy to be motivated when you see the young children in our future.
Yeah, for sure. And what about I saw that your first job was in a corrugated production facility. How has that helped you in your path?
Yeah, so corrugated is such a sustainable material in so many ways and so many instances. It's also where I got my nickname Corrugated, which was a perfect nickname for me. The workers there thought that was hilarious, so I spent 5 years listening to that. So I've actually trademarked that name and use it to my advantage now and with my TikTok channel. But watching how you can turn wood pulp into paper and turn that paper into corrugated and then recycle that again almost infinitely has been an exciting part of my journey in packaging. To see how you can use corrugated instead of less sustainable materials, and to learn how those machines work and how they are very sustainable was really insightful for me and taught me a lot in my career.
Awesome. Absolutely. So how would you define sustainable packaging, and what are its key principles from your perspective, Katie or Corey?
I can take it off here. So I mean, the primary directive of packaging, right, is that it protects the product. So that's going to be the number one key principle always. But beyond that, we're looking at, we want it to be efficient in material usage. We don't want to be overpacking anything. And we also want, I think that an important concept here is the concept of continuous improvement. So kind of the flexibility to recognize, nobody knows. There's no silver bullet in packaging. And so we don't know exactly what the right thing to do is all the time. And so I think flexibility in recognizing that perhaps we made a wrong decision here, or that's not the most important, most effective way that we can be sustainable in packaging. So I think that that's a key principle that I like to think about for sustainable packaging.
Yeah, well said. And I think that's definitely an answer. And I've done over 300 podcast episodes, and everyone has a different answer, which tells me that the answer is that depends. And it depends on which situation you're in. Like you said, number one goal is to get the product there safely. There's nothing sustainable about rotten food. We need to make sure that the product lasts on the shelf long enough to be consumed by the consumer. And like you said, we need to continuously strive for better and more sustainable. To me, sustainability is not a thing, it's a journey, it's a timeline. It's eventual, it's progression to better and improvement, whether that's the system we use to make the packaging, or the system we use to recycle the packaging or reuse it. So many opportunities.
What are the most pressing environmental challenges that the packaging industry faces today, in your opinion, with everything that both of you have seen?
Yeah, I think I'll start, Katie, if you don't mind. This is a huge issue with our world, is materials ending up in the environment. And I think that's the key, is to keep it out of our environment, keep packaging materials out of our oceans, out of our streams, out of the world, into a contained environment, either to be recycled or reused or dealt with correctly. I think this is the issue that the packaging world has, and to lower our carbon footprint as much as we can, to have the least amount of impact on our planet. We owe it to each other to do that. And so to me, that's really the focus, is how can we do this with the least amount of impact while still getting the product there safely.
Yeah. And I think that going from to a kind of very practical day-to-day experience of a packaging engineer perspective, I think that the global nature of everything that we buy and how it comes from all over the world, as well as the fact that everything is needing to be designed for e-commerce and omni-channel, it's hard to design efficient packaging that can be where the waste can be managed well in all of the different parts of the world. And so we end up, designing things that can't be recycled in some places, and are overpackaged so that it can withstand single parcel shipment, even when it's just going directly through DCs to a store. And so I think that those are the kind of practical challenges of, we have to do all of these different design things to make sure that, again, we're not damaging that product, because if we damage the product, it's the worst possible outcome from a carbon and material usage perspective. We really want to make sure that we're designing appropriately, but that just is harder and harder with the global nature of things.
Absolutely. So on the other side of things, so not focusing on the environmental impact, why is sustainability in packaging such an urgent issue that needs such immediate attention?
Yeah, packaging is a huge industry. It's, I think, the third largest in the world, nearly $1 trillion, and it affects us all. All of us interact with packaging. If you look around your desk or wherever you're listening from or watching from, you'll see packaging everywhere. And so we all are involved with it, like it or not, and we all need to act right away, because we're, like I said in the beginning, we're voting with our dollars. We're making an impact on the world with our decisions, and that goes to producers as well. People like us at Aurora Packaging, we're taking major efforts and strides to improve the packaging to be more sustainable that people use. It's a fun and exciting challenge to look at someone's current packaging and help them transition to more sustainable packaging through redesign of, like you said, elimination, reduction of packaging where possible, without going too far to potentially damage the product or make the food not survive long enough to be consumed. But yeah, it's an exciting opportunity to me.
Yeah. So what are some potential consequences of not addressing the sustainability of packaging materials and practices in the near future?
I mean, practically, regulations are coming. We see them, the different EPR schemes that are coming up in the US, in Europe, they're proliferating as well. So from a practical standpoint, those regulations are coming, and we're going to pay the literal cost if we don't adhere to the requirements that those have. Additionally, because culturally people are more interested in sustainable packaging as well, Specright has put out some consumer sustainability surveys, and people are ready to vote with their wallets, and the data says that. If we're not on top of that, then we're talking about losing market share, which again, it's going to affect the bottom line if we're not in front of it.
Absolutely.
Very well said. Yeah, it's gonna lower your sales. It's gonna reduce your profits. If you're not on board with this movement as a company, as a producer, someone who makes things and ships them to people, this won't be good. This isn't a time to bury our heads in the sand. This is a time to get engaged, get involved, help shape these extended producer responsibility laws so that they are positively affecting the environment and the world.
What would you say are the key factors that contribute to the success of sustainable packaging initiatives within companies?
Ooh, okay. I would love to take this one. So I think some key factors, in going back to, interview question answering, using ambitious SMART goals, and that's the capitalized SMART. We're talking specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-based goals. But more than that, just outside of just packaging teams having those goals, really getting leadership alignment. And now when we have, kind of top-down type of alignment on packaging goals, those can be really tough and can seem impossible sometimes. But I do think that forces in innovation and adherence to that goal, because you have people and consumers holding you accountable for that. So even if your goal isn't reached at the end of that the day, a lot of progress can still be made. And I think that to pair along with that, along with having those specific goals, is really having a clear vision of what sustainability means to a company, and the goals to improve sustainability that works for your company. If anything's clear, it's that the packaging industry as a whole hasn't agreed on the best path forward for sustainability. We have LCAs can help us meet one primary goal of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, while a myriad of other concerns can lead other goals for companies being reduce plastic, reduce materials, maximize circularity. And so I don't want people to blindly choose a metric to march forward with, but I think it's important to align the goal with your company, and make sure that the ethos of both of those are aligned, because when that's aligned, I think it's easier for all employees to work together towards those goals, instead of, maybe different companies, and especially with that leadership alignment as well, so that there aren't different silos in a company working towards different and potentially competing goals there as well.
Yeah, very well said. If all employees and all coworkers understand why are we doing this?
Yeah.
It's not just to comply with the extended producer responsibility laws. If you have a real passion behind it and a real reason of, hey, look, we can make a difference together. I don't know if you've seen that movie recently, Beyond Zero. It's very inspirational. I highly recommend checking that out. It's the story of a company who did this many years ago, and started a sustainability journey before people knew what sustainability meant. And it's an exciting opportunity to gather the team and get working together. So it's the way it has to be. We have to be all on the same page to make this really work.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So I know that we've touched on the extended producer reporting. Along with that, how do regulations and standards, both at the national and international levels, influence the adoption of sustainable packaging practices?
Yeah, Katie, you want to start, or you want me to?
I go for it.
Okay, they're having a huge impact on all people involved with packaging, because people are nervous, they're scared. What's going to be different? What's going to be banned? What's going to be, how am I going to get charged for this? And I interviewed my friend Michelle from Lorax recently. She was talking about that. This is the number one question she gets is, how do we avoid these charges? Am I responsible for these costs for the PRO? And it's the problem is it's splintered. It's not the same everywhere. And, California's laws are different than Oregon's laws, which are different than Maine's laws, which are different than Colorado's. And then you have Europe and Canada. And there's the reason why people aren't sure what to do is because the rules are different everywhere. And so my advice is make sure you've got all your data straight, check out Specright and get on board now, so you have your reporting ready, and then you can do you can look in the future using your data. You can say, well, if this happens, what do we do? If that happens, how do we act? And I think it's an opportunity to calm your nerves a little bit and be prepared in advance.
Yeah, and to add on a little bit, Corey mentioned the prolific nature of all of the different APR schemes, and how they're popping up. They're all different. One thing, I was at the Sustainable Packaging Coalition conference a couple of weeks ago in New Orleans, and one interesting theme that I kind of picked up on from a couple of different companies was that I would always ask, what do sustainability goals look like at your company right now for packaging? And a couple of times, more than I would have liked to hear, is that they're really not focusing on their own goals right now. They're
Mm.
just trying to comply with the upcoming EPR legislation. And I'm not hating on EPR legislation, but I do think that it's tough to balance all of the different needs and requirements. And especially when you have a small packaging team and maybe not even a regulatory team, it's really scary. And there's a lot of stuff going on and you don't necessarily know what you're going to have to report on. Do you have that data right now? How are you going to get that data? And that really kind of comes to what Corey was talking about earlier with collecting the data and using Specright. It's a great place to start, and we can help companies understand what they need to start collecting in order to comply in the future as well.
Yeah. So Katie, how does Specright streamline the process of compliance with regulatory standards and certifications and all that's all related to sustainable packaging?
Yeah, so I mean, we just talked about the collecting those different data points and how Specright can help with that. But on top of that, so we have an integration with Lorax EPR, EPR extended producer responsibility. And so that integration allows our customers to more easily get the different reports that are required for all of the different schemes that have EPR around the world. I think there's like 46 different ones, if I'm remembering correctly, that Lorax can help with. And so, they all require different data, but if we're storing that data in Specright, if our customers are asking their suppliers for data, and when they ask for that data the first time, if they can include the different pieces of information that are going to be required by those EPR schemes, and therefore by us and by Lorax, it makes it a lot more of a front-end activity instead of all that work piling up and becoming a really big deal once the reporting time comes around.
Absolutely. Corey, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I'm concerned for people that don't have a data management system like Specright. To be honest with you, I'm concerned that they won't be able to report scope emissions and scope data to regulatory commissions that will be reaching out very soon. So absolutely recommend checking out Specright and using the tools in it like Lorax to be able to easily report these emissions and these functions to the authorities as we move forward. And then it will help you set goals of your own. And you can easily project reductions and how those will change your future emissions. It's an exciting thing to have at your fingertips.
Definitely. So next question, what role do consumers play in driving the demand for sustainable packaging, and how can businesses effectively respond to this demand?
Yeah, so like we talked about earlier, Specright has conducted, I think for a few years now, that consumer sustainability survey. And just some quick data points from that. 80% of consumers are most likely to trust companies that back up their sustainability claims with publicly shared data. And nearly 3/4, I think it was 72% of respondents would be more likely to purchase a product with sustainable packaging over a product without sustainable packaging. Now, what do consumers think about what is or isn't sustainable is a different thing. But that's really going to define what we as an industry are putting our products in. And the consumers are pushing, I think, us forward here. And of course, consumer sentiment is what has gotten our regulations and policies to where they are today. It's totally a lagging indicator, but the policies popping up all over the US are indicative of how consumers are looking for changes in packaging. And brands are either going to have to pay up or adjust packaging designs to use those favored materials from the different schemes, and it'll have a huge impact that really did start with consumers.
Well said. Yeah, packaging is really the final frontier of advertising and marketing for companies.
Yeah.
It's the last opportunity they have to say, "Hey, we care about you. We care about the environment. We care about your health. We want to be better, and we want to improve. And if you buy our product, you will be helping the planet." And so you're going to see a lot more on-pack statements, on-pack um, concepts, QR codes, things that you can use to make a decision while you're shopping. So that's an exciting part of this journey, I think, is um, how do you communicate that message to your consumer? And oftentimes it can be done through new materials in packaging or a total change in packaging. So
Yeah, and can't argue with the fact that consumers are progressively getting smarter and smarter and becoming more educated. So, on to our next question. What do you believe are the biggest challenges or barriers to widespread adoption of sustainable packaging solutions?
hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, go for it, Corey.
Oh no. Okay. I think confusion, cost. A lot of packaging changes can equal a large capital expense to start, and people don't want to move to new packaging materials until they know for sure that it's going to be acceptable in these new guidelines. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of let's wait and see. So we're designing now for Plan B and Plan C for a lot of companies, and they're saying, okay, well, if this is banned, then we need to change that. If that is banned, we need to change this. And I think you're going to see um, a lot of redesigns, a lot of potential changes without movement until they're certain, until the laws are inked and approved by the government, um, and until they've tested them. Like Katie mentioned at the beginning, packaging must perform. It must, or it's not worth it. So it must do the job. So we're testing a lot of things. We're trying out. We're doing small runs of reusable, small runs of monomaterials to make sure that it works. So that's what you're seeing. The challenges are uncertainty, and uh, a lot of things have been packed a certain way for a very long time. To change it is a massive undertaking for some people.
Absolutely. Katie, anything to add?
Yeah, just definitely resonating with that uncertainty. Again, there's no perfect solution for sustainable packaging. And so leaving our industry without a clear direction for what the best path forward is, that makes it a difficult challenge.
Absolutely. On to our second to last question. Can you share some success stories or examples of companies that have effectively implemented sustainable packaging solutions?
Yes, I can. I would like to specifically go into kind of a case study with our customer Dermalogica. So they had a company goal. It was a SMART goal, capitalized SMART. They wanted to, by 2025, have 90% of their ingredients be sustainably sourced, and 100% of their tubes and bottles designed to be reused, recycled, or composted. Now, the challenge behind that is that all of their files were stored in SharePoint, and there were outdated specs, and they sometimes didn't know the latest version of a spec. And so what this ended up leading to is that packaging engineers would spend hours searching for specifications instead of doing their jobs, designing packaging in the new packaging that needed to be created for those sustainability initiatives, for that the changeover to reused, recycled, or composted materials for those tubes and bottles. And so after they came onto Specright, some results that happened are that before Specright, it would take 3 people a whole week to pull all of the data that was needed for new product launches. But with Specright, they were able to pull all that information into a report in 30 minutes. And behind that, they're able to be more confident in their data accuracy. They're always going to be pulling the right version of the spec. They're always going to know that it's the right one. And additionally, their suppliers have been more willing and happier to give more data and those detailed specifications because they have easier access to it. And they also felt that it protected both them and Dermalogica. And so there were really just so many wins all around. And it really did start with those sustainability initiatives, but the changes and the impact was really more widespread than that.
Yeah, that is a great case study. Crazy that they were able to go from 3 people taking 1 week to do the task, and then they're able to do it in less than an hour. Just goes to show how important it is to actually have your data right in front of you to be able to keep up with this new reporting and these new EPR laws. So our last question, what advice would you give to businesses looking to prioritize sustainability in their packaging practices?
Yeah, great question. Well, call us at Aurora. Love to offer that up. Reach out to a great packaging company to get some ideas from professionals that do this for a living. And because I learn something new every day, and I've done this for 26 years. I learned something totally, sometimes shocking. Like, really? You can do that now? Or that material can replace that material? I've never seen anything like it in my career. How fast things are changing, how fast things are moving, how many new materials are coming out every week. So it's a full-time job for me to research that, and I really do appreciate all these opportunities. But my advice is reach out to people, ask, look at industry changes, and be a leader in changing to more sustainable materials.
Thank you, Cora.
And at risk of sounding like a broken record here, my advice: set those specific, measurable goals, make them public, and work really hard to meet them. Make sure that those goals resonate with your brand's priorities, whether those are based in carbon materials or plastic reduction or circularity improvements. Just make that cohesive. And I think that it'll just be easier to push that forward internally and have that accountability externally as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Now that we've gained valuable insights on packaging sustainability, it is time to delve into a live demonstration of Specright. During the demo, you will see firsthand how Specright helps you track and analyze the sustainability impact of your packaging materials and designs. Katie will demonstrate how Specright equips you with the tools to make informed decisions that align with your sustainability goals. And then as we transition into the demo, feel free to continue jotting down your questions or submitting them in the chat as we go. Without further ado, Katie, take it away.
All right, we'll get that screen shared. Perfect. So we're going to focus on the details here. When we're looking at packaging sustainability, we have to start with the basics. We can't report on what we don't measure. And so where that starts in Specright is really making sure that all of the key data points are being collected. So I'll scroll down here on, we're just on a folding carton box specification right now. And we'll come down here to our sustainability driver section. We're getting some important information like material, we have the weight, recycled content, pretty standard, but we can also track things like, is this material FSC certified? Is this going to be compostable as well? But beyond just collecting that information and saying, yes, this, no, that, Specright can go a step further and really help you with your data validity as well. So when I'm coming here and wanting to say that something is certified compostable, Specright can actually add another layer of validation. So if I scroll back up to the top and go over to my supplier documents, I'll see that I have added a certified compostable document here. So what Specright can do is say, if that document isn't uploaded, then I won't be able to save this and say it's certified compostable. I'll have to upload that document first so that I know my data is always going to be valid. And you know what? We have the document here, so we can actually upload that or say that it's certified compostable. And so there's that extra layer of validation. So not only you can't report on what you don't measure, but to use the old adage, garbage in, garbage out. So we want to make sure that our data here is good and always trustworthy, so that when we're doing reporting on it later on, we can be really confident in the results that we're seeing. Now, if I scroll down here, I want to point out a couple of things. So this in the structure section, again, we're on a folding carton here. So we'll see that there's a couple of fields that are really specific to our folding carton. So we have our substrate, but we also have this style, which is tuck top. We have a indicator for what's the seam or joint. We're going to glue on the inside. And so there's a lot of details that we can add that are specific to the folding carton here. And this is going to allow us to make sure that we're always collecting the right data, but also not too much data, and we're not overwhelming people with all of the different possible fields that you could collect for any type of packaging and making them decide which ones are relevant where. So to kind of show that as an example, I'll create a new specification here. I can create a bottle. And I'll notice that if I load it, if I scroll down first to that sustainability driver section, I'll notice there isn't an FSC certified checkbox here because this is not going to be a paper material. This is a bottle, so that's not going to be applicable. Also, if I scroll down to the structure, I'll see more relevant information like declared fill, bream full capacity, neck finish. We're not seeing, what type of seam or joint is there here on this bottle. So we're really making sure that we're showing our users the relevant information that is going to help them to collect the right data at the right time without being too overwhelming. Now, I want to move next to our home screen here, and I'm in our sustainability app. So we are seeing on our home screen our Specright sustainability dashboard. By measuring everything and storing it in one place, it's really going to increase our transparency. So we're going to be able to create dashboards like this. Now, this one's really big. It has a lot of different things going on, but you could pick what's important to you and your company. So if I scroll down here, we see first we have this UK plastic tax burden. We can find SKUs that are contributing the most to UK plastics tax. So here in this, we're noticing that that apple cider vinegar supplement, for some reason, it is really, really high for what our burden is going to be for the UK plastics tax. So this could be an opportunity for us to look into that, like why is this one such a big contributor for our company? Are there sustainable initiatives that we can go forward with to increase the recyclability or change materials so that we don't have this? And that's really marrying the sustainability of packaging with with reducing costs and really making it like a business win that's good for both the environment and the wallet. If we scroll down a little bit more, and this is kind of related to that UK plastics tax here, but we can see a table of plastic packaging with less than 30% recycled content. So now what's fun here is we can sort it by recycled content so that the ones that have the highest recycled content are at the top. So what this really tells us is that these ones at the top here are fantastic options for quick wins. If we were to increase the recycled content on these by 5%, then we're again seeing that win for cost savings in terms of tax burden later on down the line. So this is really great for being an investigative tool that we can find answers with and find those quick wins, as well as the harder wins that we might want to highlight as well. And I noted earlier that, having your data in one place, it's going to increase transparency. So we also have the packaging material by supplier here. Now, suppliers are, if I'm a brand owner, a supplier is my partner in getting my products out the door. But I also want to, as a sustainable company, make sure that the partners that we're working with have the same goals as us. So let's say that my biggest supplier here, Acme, let's say that they don't have sustainability goals that meet ours. There's two options here. One, we can find a different supplier that we already have and maybe transfer more volume to them if their goals align with us and they're able to work with us. Or maybe we can even get our partnership with Acme to change the Acme's processes and procedures and make them work together collaboratively to be more sustainable. So this can really highlight, all right, this is the company that is we're getting the most material from a weight perspective, maybe not a cost perspective, but a weight perspective. And this is going to be something that we should really focus on, make sure our partnership is as sustainable as possible. All right, so how do we get here? We, again, need to measure and report on key sustainability metrics. And, Specright has recommendations for different metrics and KPIs to start collecting. So if you don't know where to start, Specright can help you on your sustainability journey to both prepare for regulations and everything that's coming down the line, but also just to help you make those internal choices and decisions. So that's what I wanted to show from kind of high level perspective. But what I really want to do with you guys is go through an investigative report together. So in reports, we can once we have all of the data that we need, we can answer sustainability questions like we just went through examples of. Another one that we could do is how much plastic packaging do we use, and how can we reduce it? But I thought a more interesting example could be, which bottles do we make with caps that are a different material? Having different materials for a bottle and a cap is going to affect our recyclability. And so maybe we want to really make sure that those are the same material in as many places as possible. And if I'm a really big CPG, I might not know all of the products that have different ones there. So I want to go ahead and make a report with everyone here. So I went to our reports tab, clicked on new report. I'm going to search for the different tables of information that I want to include here. So I'm just going to type that in really quick. You can favorite them as well, but I'm just going to type this in, finished goods. And let's see, with spec, family connections, and specification. Okay, so what we're saying here is we're searching our finished goods and our specifications and the connections between them. And this is going to tell us, how much of things that we're using, et cetera. All right, so I've started my report here. I have the baselines. This column here isn't giving us useful information, so I'm going to remove it. And I can go over to our filters. And I will say, instead of showing me just the finished goods that I've made, I'm going to say, show me all of them. And I am also going to go back to my outline. And so we have this finished good column here. I want to group by this field. So that's going to put all of the specs and and the finished goods that they are associated with. We're going to put them all together so we can kind of see the whole finished good bill of materials. But we talked earlier, we want to limit the specs that we're looking at. We want to limit those to bottles and closures so that we can see that the bottle material and the closure material and see if they're the same or different. But of course, to see that material, we're going to have to add that material name here. So we'll search material name, add material name in here. All right, so we have grouped by our finished good ID. We have added a filter for our specification record type, so we're only searching bottles and closures. We've added our name field, and now we want to a quick win here, and there's lots of ways to do this in reporting, but what we can do is click Show Unique Count in the material name. So this is going to say if there's two different materials in this finished good, we're going to show that unique count of 2 here. And I can actually go ahead and sort by that as well. So if I click this and go to sort by unique count of specification material name, what I'm going to see is that all the ones are on top. So I'm going to flip it the other way so that the items that have a unique count of 2, so have different materials, are going to be on top. So if I click run here, our investigation is done, and we can see here on top are all of the bottle and cap pairs that have different materials. If we scroll down, we can see that these are the ones that are doing what we want. We have those single material bottles and caps, but the ones on top here are where we can start new initiatives and projects so that we can work towards that new sustainable goal of having monomaterials, and we can work towards that. All right, and that's what I had for the demo today. I hope that was helpful and gave a quick peek at how Specright and storing all of your data and how easy it can be to get good sustainable outcomes with that.
That's awesome, Katie. Thank you so much. That dashboard is truly cool. Just to open Specright, open that platform, and see everything from a high level perspective. Is so cool.
I know, and I think that I showed about half of that dashboard here. There's really so many examples, but didn't want to give everyone too much information to digest.
Absolutely. Well, that's it from us. We will pass it off to you all for our Q&A session. Take this time to drop your questions in the chat if you have not done so already. Looks like we have our first question. How can we make management more aware of these benefits and opportunities besides challenges and regulatory impacts mentioned?
How can we make management more aware of these potential solutions, maybe, is kind of, yeah. Okay. So I think we need to show it from their perspective. How can this affect them? Mm-hmm. And I think that's true for the whole chain of command, all the way down to workers on the floor building the products, and show them how it adds value to them, and work all the way back up to senior leadership and say, you could report these items in 30 minutes instead of 3 weeks, and it will drive dollars to your bottom line because you are reducing your labor, reducing your impact to your labor force. So Specright is it's an incredible tool to have in your arsenal.
Yeah, and to kind of go on to that, I think that a lot of when we're talking about instigating change, when we're influencing people at our company, storytelling is going to be a huge part of that. And that is not at all the theme of this webinar here. But like Corey said, making things, putting them in the, telling a story in terms of what's important to the person receiving the story, that's going to be a really important part of that win.
Absolutely. Next question. Can the sustainability drivers such as FSC be customized?
Sure can. Easy answer.
Cool. Next question.
I think that I wanted to go back to that a little bit.
Absolutely.
I think that is such an important part of Specright, is how it's not a static tool. It's not the same for everybody.
Mhm.
It's customizable to you and to your company and to your products and to your vision, and it will allow you to succeed in your goals. So very important.
Thank you, Corey, helping me out there. You know, me on the product team. I'm just like, yes, we got the feature.
You're amazing at what you do. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Corey.
And it looks like this is our last question. How are suppliers tied to the platform for data sharing? And is it a collaborative environment?
Amazing question. So there's a couple different ways. I'm going to talk about the right now. So right now, when you are if you're a brand owner and you have suppliers that you want to collaborate with, we can get them licenses to Specright in their own little environment where you can limit the data that they see, so that it's only the data that's relevant to them that you're working on with them. You know that you'll have lots of different suppliers, so wouldn't be reasonable to share everything with everyone. So we can limit that. But they can be involved at any stage in that process of data gathering as well. So we have customers that say, hey, will you make it will you make the spec in Specright? And so the supplier will fully make that spec and send it to approval for the internal brand owner team. We have other customers that the internal team starts the spec and says, hey, supplier, there's a couple things we need to know. Can you help us out here? And so it's really, it can absolutely be collaborative. You can add suppliers as part of an approval process. If you want to make sure that they're signing off on things, you can add them there. And our suppliers can also come in at any time to that environment that they have to see what the latest is. So they're never going to be seeing outdated information. They're never going to accidentally look at the wrong email with the wrong attachment and start producing that. So that's going to be a really collaborative win with with having your suppliers engaged in your Specright solution.
Yeah. Great question and great answer. Before we wrap up, I wanted to extend a huge thank you to Corey and Katie for sharing your expertise with us today. Your contributions have truly enriched my and hopefully the audience's understanding of sustainable packaging and the role Specright plays in driving positive change. So thank you, Corey and Katie, for being such integral parts of today's webinar. Appreciate you guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. And I want to invite you all to join us next month on May 21st for our next edition of Specright Unpacked. I will be joined by yet another special guest as we continue to dive into Specright and the value it brings to packaging teams across industries. Stay tuned for a registration link coming soon. Furthermore, if any additional questions come up or if you're interested in diving deeper into the features mentioned today, please contact me directly at grace@specright.com. I can get you connected with our team or provide any additional resources you might be looking for. Keep in mind, we will be publishing the recording of this session in the coming days, so stay tuned for that if you'd like to look back or share these resources with your team. Thank you again for joining us today, and we hope to see you next month. Bye.
Bye.